You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, Dodgers and Rockies fans? It is the Locked On Dodgers and Rockies crossover postcast on the Locked On Sports LA and Denver YouTube channels, the place to hang out when every game is done. You can also listen wherever you find your podcasts on the Locked On Dodgers and Rockies podcast feed. Pete Fox covering sports in LA dating back to 2007 for ESPN and NBC Sports Radio, and Aniello Piro working for Mile High Sports in Denver. Well, as Pete Arbogast likes to say now, Aniello, this is the voice of the Trojans. His catchphrase is, "How do you do?" Reportedly stolen from Vin Scully way back in the day, or maybe gifted. The story goes that Vin said, "Yeah, fine, you can say that if you want," and Pete has run with it. It's what it felt like to me today. This was another Hollywood script for an ending to a baseball game. Dodgers kind of sleepwalked their way through the first. I thought it was interesting today. Oral Hershiser brought up a way of looking at a game that, it seems logical. It makes a ton of sense. Don't know that I've ever heard someone look at a game this way. He said, I look at it in three different chapters, if you will. The first three, the middle three, and the last three. And I was like, that's interesting and different. And he goes, each time we kind of reset a little bit. And it did feel like the Dodgers reset a little bit after the seventh and grinded their way back into this game. That's when they scored 3 runs to make it a 5-4 game. And then the walk-off from Mookie in the 9th, but the bigger home run, of course, Shohei Ohtani, his 52nd, which made it a tie ball game. So much to like about this game if you're a Dodger fan. And, to a certain extent, the Rockies shouldn't feel too awful. I mean, they were in it right to the very end, in spite of striking out 17 times, which would be season high for the Dodgers.
They're ridiculous. I think we talked about it a bunch on Friday's show where like the strikeouts just continue to compound. Their bullpen, Antonio Senzatella was nice for them on the mound today for the Rockies, and this is only his second start. He actually tore his ACL and had Tommy John surgery in back-to-back years. So it's been about 2 years, since Antonio Senzatella has been back on the mound. So his second start. So I guess there's your silver lining for the Rockies fans, is that he looks all right against a potent Dodgers lineup. But the bullpen does what the bullpen does. And I believe it's the Rockies and the Mets are the two teams that have blown the most leads in the 9th inning throughout the course of this season. So same old song and dance for the Rockies, Pete.
Yeah, there was again, a lot to feel good about offensively for the Dodgers. We're seeing some comments over here. People are kind of worried about Yamamoto. Matty Man is not. No worries. All good. I'm kind of with Matty Man on this one. I'm not terribly worried. Yamamoto is going to be there. We better get on board and hope that he does what he's been doing aside from today, because there's not a lot of other options. But from a pitching perspective, Kasperius was probably the highlight today. People feeling really good about his outing. He's a youngster. He's pitched 2 or 3 games, came out today and looked really good. Went 3 innings, gave up 1 run on 3 hits, walked 2, and struck out 5 of 6 in his first 2 frames. So the fact is that guy was dealing. I was talking about him with you on Friday, that I'm kind of high on this dude because he comes out and just has this sort of, focus that, a young, determined rookie has. He didn't seem overwhelmed by the moment. And again, today looked good. So I think he's got a really good opportunity to be on this postseason roster. But from an offensive perspective, Kike Hernandez going deep, that was huge. He came in, found out he was starting 2 hours before the game started. Now, they said that Muncy's injured, but they didn't say much more. So I don't know if it's a, nagging thing or he shows that he's on the roster. Maybe he came in late in the game. So that's good that it doesn't appear to be anything too terribly bad. But that was awesome. Teoscar Hernandez's home run was so pure. I mean, that was like when Shohei gets one right where he's expecting it, and he just, like he did in the 9th inning, absolutely launches it. That was such a perfectly rhythmic swing from Teoscar. It looked like the All-Star game when he was just ripping home runs one after the other. So that was nice to see. But without a doubt, you didn't see this because it was on the Dodgers broadcast. The highlight of the game for me was, aside from the walk-off, was Oral Hershiser calling a changeup the cambio. I'm like, the cambio? That's Spanish for changeup or change.
Yeah.
I'm like, the cambio. He Americanized it so horribly. The cambio. I'm like, come on, can you put a little bit of an accent on it? Just at least try to say cambio. Just try the cambio. I'm like, what the hell was that? Has he been calling it the cambio for 40 years? Probably, yeah. And then we get all over on the Locked On Dodgers postcast, Steven Nelson, the backup, the secondary Dodgers broadcaster, for saying ridiculous things like when the count is full, he'll say, instead of the count being full, he'll say it's filled up, which drives me absolutely insane. Ugh. That's not a thing, right? Have you ever heard someone call the count filled up? No, it's full. It's either full or it's not. It's not filled up. You don't change the conjugation of the verb. Good. I mean, I give him credit for trying to be a little different, but it's ridiculous. Yeah, don't do that. And then sometimes his home run call is merely, did he? And he'll also like challenge dudes in the box as if they're listening to him. You won't. And it's just, I find it annoying. It's way too trying to be hip, right? But his call on Ohtani's home run was perfect. Nailed it. He said, Shohei Ohtani is inevitable. I was like, way to go, Steven. That's a good call right there.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And, I like to get into the nuances. Actually, Tim Neverett, who you guys are very familiar with out there in Los Angeles, he cut his teeth in Colorado with the Rockies back in the day. And, if you want to ask the duality of the Rockies and the Dodgers organizations, Tim is probably a fun person to break that down with. But, in regards to oral and, the sayings and all that, sometimes you can't teach an old dog new tricks, regardless of the situation that you're in, regardless, and the fact that you're living in a, baseball is a very, a lot of Latino players in baseball. Like it's synonymous with the sport these days. And so it is what it is, but that's what Sunday afternoons are for. I feel like a little bit.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It was fun. I was joking with Kenyon Barner, who I do the Locked On Chargers postcast with, that I feel like Jim Nantz is losing a step. He's still great. I mean, still one of the best. He's still the number one with Tony Romo on CBS. But starting the game, he comes on and he goes, we got 2-0 teams here. The winner will leave this game with a 3-0 record. Really? Oh. Thanks for pointing that out. What he was leading into was, if the Chargers are to win this game, it'll be their first 3-0 start since 2002. I'm like, well, now that's interesting. You could have skipped over the winner of this game will be 3-0, but it happens. Look, I mean, how many times have you said stuff that was obvious and unnecessary? We've all done it. It's part of being a broadcaster. You need to say words. Sometimes they don't all come out great, right? I mean, if we're not saying words, then why the heck are we here in the first place, right? But a great win for the Dodgers. 6-5. Mookie Betts, first walk-off as a Dodger. I was surprised to hear that as well. He's been kind of up and down of late, but I think hopefully this gets him going again. Another guy that's kind of been up and down of late, Gavin Lux, didn't do too much today, but got on base in a crucial spot there in the, I believe he walked in the 7th, maybe it was the 8th. Probably the 8th. They came up empty there. But look, the Dodgers are loaded, especially at the top. Freddie Freeman had a decent day as well. 2 for 4, 1 RBI, clutch hit there, but grounded into a double play in a crucial spot as well. And Dodger fans are a little frustrated with that, especially with Freddie Freeman having a .385 batting average with the bases loaded and 2 home runs. That's this season. So 2 grand slams this year in a career of 7 grand slams. So it's definitely enjoying that position, that spot with the bases loaded, but today grounded into a double play. So it was nice to see him get the RBI later. But Gavin Lux over the last 7 is 2 for 12 with just 1 RBI. And through the month of September, a 184 batting average, which is 7 for 38. And the only reason I bring that up is because we have watched Gavin Lux go up and down all season. Started the season really, really slow at the bottom of the lineup. People calling for him to be DFA'd, send him down, et cetera, et cetera. And got hot right after the All-Star break and has cooled off. And I think I have a specific reason that I feel like he's cooled off. I will tell you what it is after the break. How's that for a tease?
Love it, my friend. Let's get after it.
I'm getting better at the teases. I got to do it so fast. Yeah, I'm not a good teaser. I just jump right in. Anyway, Dodgers with a 6-5 walk-off win to stay 3 ahead of the Padres, who beat the White Sox today lost number 120 for them, which ties the worst record in the history of baseball. So we'll talk about that as well a little bit, because that's something, that's a record is a record, right?
Yeah.
All right. He's Aniello, Piro. I'm Pete Fox. Locked On Dodgers, Locked On Rockies, crossover postcast on the Locked On Sports LA and Denver YouTube channels. And to answer your question that you texted me, Aniello, I'll read the first one. You read the second one. Today's episode of the Locked On Dodgers and Locked On Rockies crossover postcast is brought to you by booking.com. Yeah. The right state can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rival city. Book today on booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the booking.com app today. The booking.com app has been very kind to me. I have booked many times on booking.com, and I tell the story that we were in Europe, and we were trying to find a hotel near the airport in Rome just to like sleep before we got on the plane to come home. And I found one. It was great, had great reviews. I booked the room, and then I'm texting back and forth with the innkeeper, if you will. And she's like, you only booked a room for 2 people. And it shows here that you have 3 people. And I was like, yeah, so what? Well, my daughter can sleep on the floor. She's like, no, she can't. But then she sent me a link to book a different room that had beds for 3 people. Super easy, super friendly. And that's the kind of experience you get when you deal with people on booking.com. With hotels, beds and breakfasts, or is it bed and breakfasts? I think it's beds and breakfast. Pluralizing it in the wrong place there. Vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city during the postseason. Maybe it's time to taste your baseball competition stadium cuisine. Luckily on booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's just right for you. Fans heading to, let's say, Phoenix, because the Dodgers could be locking up with them, down to San Diego. There's lots to see. Those are cool cities, and there's plenty to do in those cities, in addition to looking at or watching the baseball game. So let me find the outro and the call to action here, Aniello. This is a new script, by the way, so when you read this one, be ready. The right state can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rival city. Check it out, booking.com, booking.yeah. I'm super familiar with that script, but they put a new one out, and I'm like, wait a second, this is all different. I'm like, there's so much direction in these scripts. Don't say this, do say that. Don't say this, don't say that, do say this. Oh God. Anyway, we got through it. What is this other thing over here? Oh, that's something else. Never mind.
I was
all
also
right,
going to say, not to get too off script, I'm showing 2 ad reads for mine, so I'll do Robin Hood and Prize.
Oh, that's right. My bad. Yeah, thanks.
No, just making sure.
Yeah, for sure. Dodgers a 6-5 walk-off win. Shohei Ohtani goes deep to tie the game, and then Mookie Betts right on his heels. So they were set up perfectly there. That worked out just as you would expect. From a Hollywood script on a Sunday afternoon to win a series they probably should have won more comfortably than this. But hey, win is a win, and give the Rockies credit. They're playing spoiler. They've challenged the Padres when they've played them lately. They are in these games. They make it interesting. They don't roll over. And that's good to see that the Dodgers got some competition. I feel like this time of year, you want that. You want to, get the opposition's best. You don't want to, those games in Miami were fun, but winning 20-2, 20-4, it was exciting because Shohei did all of that heroics with the 3 home runs and the 6 for 6 and the 10 RBI and 50-50, etc. But I don't know that makes you a better team. A game like this does make you a better team. What I think does not make you better, Aniello, here's my take on Gavin Lux. The Dodger coaching staff, Dave Roberts on down, or Andrew Friedman on down, the guys who make the decisions on the lineups are not doing Gavin Lux any favors. The whole lefty-righty crap is getting to him because he's missing like every other game. And when you're hot, you do not sit this guy down. Right? Again, I always say they're not sitting Shohei down against left-handed pitchers. He still gets the hit. Freddie Freeman still gets the hit against left-handed pitchers. Now, I'm not comparing Gavin Lux to those guys, but Gavin Lux has been hot. And the way you stay hot is by hitting. The way you lose heat is by sitting on the bench. And I just feel like this is what do you expect? He's playing every other day. So he's kind of okay. 2 for 12, in the last 7 days, 1 RBI, got on base today with a walk, but a 184 batting average in the month of September. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like guys need to play?
Yeah, and I'll go back to the point that you and I were talking about on Friday where, specifically when it comes to baseball, it's all about momentum in the postseason. And I know that the Dodgers rather, they have a lot of different talent at a lot of different positions. So that can, that allows them to free some people up, play some people in some different spots, platoon them and all that kind of stuff. But, one of the things that I had brought up to you on the postcast on Friday is when you get to the postseason, like everyone's going to be trying to get Mookie, Freddie, and Shohei out. So you're going to need the Teoscar Hernandezes, you're going to need the Gavin Luxes of the world to step up and figure out a way to contribute. And you got to ride the hot hand, in my opinion. I mean, if this guy, to your point, what'd you say, 184 batting average in September? Yeah. I mean, why are you going to toy with that? Or why are you going to not set him up for success if he is seeing the ball and hitting the ball well? So, at the end of the day, we'll have to see how the Dodgers try to handle that. But I personally, if he's hitting, he's mashing, I'm keeping him in there, regardless of the talent that you have on your bench or in the rest of the lineup. You got to ride the hot hand because last I checked, playoffs are coming up in less than 2 weeks. So, you might as well try to juice that momentum as much as you can.
Yeah, I just don't feel like Gavin Lux is the kind of guy that Kike Hernandez is. I mean, Kike Hernandez has that gene that he can just get in there and take care of business and get clutch hits off of the bench. Not everybody. When I played ball, again, junior college baseball, if I didn't start, I was a disaster. Like the only other way I could get on base, as a pinch hitter in the 8th was to get hit by the ball, right? Or hope for a walk. Because I needed to have rhythm and momentum. And like, there are different guys that can do that. Just throw me in. I don't care. I'll go up there and get a hit. I just don't feel like Gavin Lux is that guy. He doesn't have that gene. There are guys that are capable of doing that. The Dodgers, Chris Taylor to me is, I don't know. He's could go either way. I feel like obviously he was awful to start the season, just like Gavin Lux. But then got it going and has been pretty good of late. But I feel like he's a guy that's much better when you put him in for the whole game. And he's not a guy that comes off the bench and is able to put the ball in play. So there's different kind of players and you have to know your guys. And I feel like they're just doing him a disservice by not letting him play more right now. But, you've got kind of a log jam with Tommy Edman, who's really hot right now. And you got Miggy Rojas, who's not really hot. He was frigid on this series. I believe 0 for the series. 0 for 2 today with a walk. So he did not get a hit in this series. But he's been pretty good too, but is more than anything a very, very solid glove at shortstop, and they need him in there as much as possible. So you're trying to find, and then they want Kike in there to start, I think, from time to time. But I think they could platoon him at third base and just not worry about putting him anywhere else. The other night, they put Mookie at second base. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, let him hit against left-handed hitters. I can't imagine, what do they call it? The slash rate. I can't imagine it's dramatically different. That sometimes they make a decision based on 10 batting average points. I'm like, really? So this guy's batting 230, this guy's batting 240, and you think that's worth taking a starter out that should get in there, who deserves the hacks? He needs to be out there hitting the ball, not on the bench cheering on his teammates. So that's just my take. I feel like they've done the same thing to Michael Kopech at times. Let him sit on the bench for 3, 4, 5 days. I'm like, get that dude out there. He needs to pitch. And in the 9th inning, I feel like closers they thrive on that intensity, that juice, that adrenaline that comes from pitching in the 9th inning. And when you throw them out there in the 7th or the 8th, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And to your point, I mean, like, that's one of the things with like the Rockies, even where you've seen them kind of just maneuver these guys. I mean, I can't tell you how many guys have started in the rotation, ended up in the bullpen, back in the rotation, back in the bullpen, spot start. And it's just like, it's all over the place. And the way that you break it down is like, I don't know, man. And I think like that's a product of the analytic era as well. Like it feels like they try to mash this stuff up a little bit more. Like back in the day, it was like, you're going to go 8 innings, or you're going to go 7 innings, or we're going to, pitch it till you can't pitch no more. And sometimes I think, the saying is playing with your food. I think it's a little bit of that right now in the modern game, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Please tell me that Kristen Watson did not ask this question, Maddie Man. Mookie, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? Did she really ask that? Come on. I have been critical of Kristen Watson in the past. She's the sideline reporter for the Dodgers Network. But I feel like she has improved tremendously this year and last year, and much better, very informative, very smooth, very laid back. But yeah, I get it. You're there. She's not covering all 162, but she's probably there 130 games. I mean, you run out of things to say. Hey, that was great. How did that feel? What were you looking for? There's only so many questions you can ask. The one that I hate the most, without a doubt, in the locker room is, so you going to celebrate?
Oh,
no,
gosh.
Not like, you never ask that question, right? Never. Even when the only time you can ask that question is when they're celebrating, and then you don't need to ask that question because they're never going to be like, yeah, man, we're celebrating tonight. No, you celebrate when you clinch, and that's it. And that's too frequently, right? How many times do you pop corks in baseball? It can be 4 times a year. How many corks do you pop in other sports? 1, if you're lucky. 1, right? After you win a championship. Baseball, they do it after clinching. They do it after each round of the playoffs, right? So that could be 4 times. It's just too much. Too much. Have you been a part of that celebration yet?
Say him.
Have you been a part of one yet in the locker room covering it, where you're getting doused?
Yeah, I actually, so Bud Black just became the winningest manager in Rockies history on like Monday or Tuesday of this last week. And I took a trip down memory lane on the Rockies postcast. So that would have been probably 2017. So this was when they had Nolan, Trevor Story, Cargo, Gerardo Parra, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how, but I ended up with a pair of ski goggles and a poncho. And we were just like, they were going crazy. And I get like the difference with like the Rockies don't make the playoffs. They make the playoffs like twice out of every 10 years. So I can kind of understand it from that perspective. But selfishly, it was a good time. I think I still got some corks from some champagne bottles somewhere laying around too.
It is fantastic. It's unbelievable. I guess we're lucky that we get to do that and be a part of it. And if it weren't for the frequency, then we probably wouldn't be able to. So I shouldn't complain, but I just think it's excessive. But I don't know. It's definitely unlike anything you've ever experienced before, because it's not very often that you pop so many corks in champagnes, or they'll do those 16-ounce aluminum bottles, which I call canoddles. Yep. And they just the beer, and they don't drink them. They just pour them on each other's head. So the locker room floor, which is generally carpet, is like 2 inches of liquid. Literally. I always look at literally. I go, they must just rip the carpet up, mop up the floor, and put down new carpet, because there's no way to clean that. It would just be impossible. But it's a crazy experience that most people in their regular lives, even if you were in a frat, don't get to experience. He's Aniello, Piro. I'm Pete Fox. Locked On Dodgers, Locked On Rockies, crossover postcast. After the break, I want to tell you something else about this game with regard to Shohei Ohtani that I was really surprised by. The fan reaction to something he was doing was kind of bizarre to me. We'll talk about that after the break. Dodgers, a walk-off win for number 93, 6-5 the final. By the way, did you hear that no teams this year will win 100 games? That's bizarre too. A very tight Major League Baseball season across the board, but nobody's getting to 100. So there's some fun, exciting baseball ahead of us. And right now, some fun, exciting ad reads from Aniello. Hold on.
All right, guys, let's have some fun here. I'll tell you about our friends over at Robinhood and Prize Picks. Let's start with Robinhood, guys, because with Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society, and now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of high net worth for any net worth, and these generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms they do apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. And let me also tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks, guys, because Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And guys, they have a ton of different features. I'll tell you about a couple here real quick. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineup stays in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, your Prize Picks are still live. Plus, Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And guys, download the Prize Picks app today. Use that code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
Dodgers with a 6-5 walk-off win for win number 93. Rockies are now 60-96. Shohei Ohtani tied the game in the 9th. His 4th hit of the day. One of them, did they end up? Yeah, no, they didn't. They called that one that got by the second baseman there, Rogers. They called that a base hit. That was totally an error. And both of the guys on the Dodgers call were like, that's not a hit. That's an error. But they gave Shohei the benefit of the doubt. So 4 for 5 today. 1 RBI, the home run in the 9th, and 2 runs scored. But here's what I was surprised by. The fans were like as excited about the stolen bases as they were about the home runs. I was looking in the crowd and dudes were like standing up like, yeah, he stole a base. Yeah. And one of them was 1st and 3rd. So there wasn't even a tag. It was basically uncontested. So I'm like, yeah, that's obvious. That's, there's no challenge there. The second one was a little bit closer on the challenge, but 55 stolen bases. And I'm surprised at how excited the fans get about that. I think, he's making history, and every time he does something else, people are just like fired up.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's interesting because like I'm a National League baseball guy, and I know that it's kind of been deteriorated in like the last, 5-ish years with all the rule changes, designated hitter and stuff. But like the stolen base, I feel like at times become a lost art. Like I remember back in the day, when I was growing up and when my dad was growing up, like that was an essential part of the game. And I think it's the combination of Ohtani being able to hit for power and speed. And if you look at Ohtani, like I would never guess that he's a speed demon like that. Like, he's a little bit of a bigger guy, like a little burly, but he's got the wheels, man. And I'm a guy that can appreciate the small ball and the stolen base, the sacrifice, the bunt, whatever it might be. I'm all for it. And honestly, I mean, home runs are hit, multiple times a game. There's only so many people that can consistently steal bases as well. And it's the fact that it's coupled with the home run. What is he, 52 right now or close to that? I mean, it's just
55 stolen bases.
Jeez.
And I think the home runs are now 53. So, 7 games to play. I'm sorry, 6 games to play. So, he could have, 53 and 55. So he could have 2 more and be, I feel like anytime he gets on base, which is almost nightly, he's going to steal a base, right? So he could have 60 stolen bases pretty easily. The home run thing, I don't think he gets to 60, but 55 seems within reach for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's just the ability to do it at the same time is what's just insane. I know you and I had talked about this probably isn't the case if he's pitching, just because of the amount of effort that you have to exert when you're doing both of those things on a regular basis. But he's just taking the sport by storm, man. Like even like the most casual of casual sports fans know who Shohei Ohtani is and know how impactful he is. And not to rub salt in an open wound, I don't think we have any Angels fans in here, but it's like the moment that he leaves Los Angeles, like he was great or leaves the Angels rather, Orange County. And comes to the Dodgers and puts forth just an historic season. As a baseball fan and a baseball purist, it's something that I never thought I would see in my life. But, I feel like Michael Jackson in the Thriller music video. I just got my popcorn. I'm in the front seat, and that's why I'm excited to see him finally in the playoffs. Like, I think about it with the Angels. I think Mike Trout's only played in like 1 or 2 playoff games in his entire career. So I'm happy that Shohei's out of there, and we can see him on the big stage because he's a big-time, prime-time player, man. It's fantastic to watch.
Frank says I'm wrong. What am I wrong about, Frank? Enlighten me. Lux versus left-handed pitching. Oh, okay. Yeah, he doesn't agree with me there. Okay. I mean, maybe you have the numbers in front of you, Frank. I don't. So wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong. So I just feel like the guy's hot and the platooning is not helping him. As some other people do agree with me here on Lux can't hit left-handed pitching. A lot of data says it. Roy agrees. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like, the fact of the matter is that he's been on the bench too much. So, the circumstances are working against him then. And I think that's unfortunate because the guy's been hot and, he's going to be the starter during the postseason. I would have to believe, but maybe not. Maybe they keep platooning. I don't know. I really hope that is not the case because the Dodgers, he's a very good glove and has been clutch. So let's have to hope that they don't face too much left-handed pitching because that'll keep Lux on the bench and that won't be good for them. Here's the question I have for you. I was digging around today, talking to a buddy who has kind of jumped on the Dodgers bandwagon this season because of, like you said, even the casual fan gets fired up about Ohtani and the Dodgers in general. So we were looking at, how the playoffs could shake down. The way it stands right now, the Dodgers with 93 wins. I don't know what Philly did today. They're playing today right now. They start here. Yeah, they started at 4 Pacific. So they're playing the Mets, who are red hot. So if the Phillies win, they'll be 93 wins, as the Dodgers are. 1 and 2 seeds in the West. It pretty much feels like the Dodgers are going to be the 1 or the 2. I guess if they step in it the rest of the way and get swept by the Padres and then lose to the Rockies in Denver to finish out the season, then it's possible that they don't win the West and they could be a wild card team. But I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like they'll win the West because they're not going to get swept by the Padres. They might lose the series, but they're not going to get swept. So they'll probably come out of that series at worst 1 game up. Then got to face the Rockies. Anything can happen there. So who knows? They probably win that series, but lose 1. So they will more than likely, in my opinion, be the 2 seed, which means that then they would face either the 3 or the 6, and the 3 will be Milwaukee and the 6 will be that last wild card team, which is not the Padres and not the Diamondbacks. So more than likely the Mets and the 1 seed will have to face either the winner of the Diamondbacks and the Padres series. So it is complicated for sure, but I feel like if it is to finish up that way, that's really the best possible scenario. And maybe I'm just recency biased here that I don't want to face the Diamondbacks or the Padres. I would much rather face, because the Dodgers have been okay against the Diamondbacks, not good against the Padres. So I would much rather face the Brewers or the Mets. Doesn't that seem like a logical, better scenario to you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And if it is the Mets, my family's from New York. I was born and raised a Met fan myself. And as I mentioned, it was in the first segment, I believe, the Mets and the Rockies are the 2 teams that have blown more leads in the 9th inning than anybody. So, if you are having to face the Mets, you're going to feel pretty confident about your ability with that lineup that the Dodgers have and the inconsistency of the Mets bullpen as well. I also think there's something to be said about the level of familiarity of those 2 other teams in the division, being the Diamondbacks and the Padres. Like you mentioned, the records against some of those guys. Like I would almost rather rip the Band-Aid off and not start anew, right? Because they've all played each other over the course of the season. But sometimes when it's like a little like brother dynamic, like you kind of know what the other team does really well. You know what they struggle with. I would rather, if I'm a Dodger fan, or, in the organization as well, I'm trying to get some fresh meat or as fresh of meat that you could possibly get. But at the end of the day, Pete, I think, in regards to kind of forecasting these last couple series for the Dodgers, like I agree with you. They'll probably go 2 out of 3, right? But you got to just play who's on your schedule. And I don't think that you should try to manipulate your wins and your losses for a favorable matchup. I think at the end of the day, you just play your games, you win at all costs and let the chips fall where they may.
Chips fall. Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously that's what they're going to do, but you look at it right now and you start kind of prognosticating. You can't help but go, I'd much rather have this team than that team, but anything can still happen. So there's I wouldn't say it's a long way to go with 6 games, but there's still just so many options out there. They could still be the 1 seed and have to face either the Padres or the Diamondbacks, or maybe the Diamondbacks fall. I mean, what are they? I think they're maybe a game away from the Diamondbacks lost today. And if the Mets are to win, then, the Diamondbacks and the Mets are a half a game apart. So that could switch too, right? Where the Mets become the 2nd wild card team and the Diamondbacks are the 3rd. So look, the Braves could get red hot down the stretch here and kick the Mets out. Anything is possible. So it's too hard to prognosticate right now what's going to happen. So, I just hope they can stay hot stay good, keep rolling, keep the momentum going. And then if they have that week off, they don't lose it, right? They figure out a way to keep the momentum rolling, but it's not the best position to be in. So to a certain extent, I'm really not terribly threatened by the idea if they end up being the wild card team. That would be fine. Because I feel like any of those teams that they would face, they, would be okay against, except the Padres. That's the one I'm really worried about, the Padres, because they've won this season series against the Dodgers already, 7 of 10. And they've done well against the Mets, although that was a very different Mets team when they faced them in the first half. They've done well against the Diamondbacks. They've done well against the Brewers. So I feel like they'd be okay against those three. I'm just worried about the Padres. And my friends that are Padres fans are probably like, told you. Spend $700 million on one guy and still probably lose. Anyway, so I guess we'll be talking end of the week. What is it? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, wrap up the season rather. So look forward to that. And day off tomorrow for the Dodgers. What about you guys?
Ooh, what are the Rockies? Well, I know they play St. Louis. They're probably going to go because they do that in the Dodgers series. Let's take a look at what time that first pitch is. Yeah, 6:40 at home, so a nice little home stand for the Rockies. Here's a fun nugget that I'll throw out there as well for the baseball fan. Would you believe me if I told you that Nolan Arenado's won more series with the Rockies than he has with the Cardinals? Because that's a fact. And it's just crazy when you think of it that way, because Nolan, and I know, he's getting towards the end of his career or end of his prime, however you want to phrase it, but as well as I do. I mean, I know that the Dodgers were always better than the Rockies, but when it was Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story, David Dahl, Charlie Blackmon, I mean, those were some thunderous lineups that the Rockies were putting out back then. And the whole reason Nolan Arenado from the LA area as well, that he left the Rockies in the first place, is because he wanted to compete. So it'll be fun to see Nolan come back to town, even though he's technically had more success in Rockies pinstripes than he has Cardinals jerseys as well. But Cardinals, Dodgers, and to your point, we'll do it again at the end of the week, my friend.
Dodgers, Padres, game 1 is Tuesday. Landon Knack starts for the boys in blue versus Michael King. This is 12-9 for King versus 3-4 for Knack, and 2.3+ ERA. So that should be a good pitching matchup as well. He's Aniello, Piro, Mile High Sports in Denver. I'm Pete Fox. Locked On Dodgers, Locked On Rockies crossover postcast on the LA and Denver YouTube channels. Place to hang out when every game is done. Of course, you can download the podcast on the Dodgers and Rockies podcast feed. Have a good week, dude. I will talk to you at the end of next week. Pete Fox and Aniello Piro. We will talk tomorrow. Oh no, Tuesday for me, Monday for him, and then enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good one. Take care. See ya.